This is Seeking the Word. This is a project where I'm reading through the Bible from beginning to end, trying to understand what the text says as I move through it. In this episode, we're looking at Genesis 16. The goal here is to read the passage carefully, pay attention to how it's structured, and spend some time reflecting on what stands out before continuing forward. We'll begin with the text. Genesis 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bore him no children. She had a servant, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Sarai said to Abram, "See now, Yahweh has restrained me from bearing. Please go into my servant. It may be that I will obtain children by her." Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. He went in to Hagar, and she conceived. When she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Sarai said to Abram, "This wrong is your fault. I gave my servant into your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Yahweh judged between me and you." But Abram said to Sarai, "Behold, your servant is in your hand. Do to her whatever is good in your eyes." Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her face. Yahweh's angel found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain on the way to shore. He said, "Hagar, Sarai's servant, where did you come from? Where are you going?" She said, "I am fleeing from the face of my mistress, Sarai." Yahweh's angel said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hands." Yahweh's angel said to her, "I will greatly multiply your offspring, that they will not be numbered for multitude." Yahweh's angel said to her, "Behold, you are with child, and will bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because Yahweh has heard your affliction. He will be like a wild donkey among men. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. He will live opposed to all of his brothers." She called the name of Yahweh who spoke to her. "You are a God who sees," for she said, "Have I even stayed alive after seeing him?" Therefore the well was called Beer Leroy. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore a son for Abram. Abram called the name of his son whom Hagar bore Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. The passage opens with a condition stated plainly. Sarai bears no children, and immediately introduces Hagar as an Egyptian servant, placing both elements side by side at the entry point. The structure moves quickly into dialogue where Sarai speaks and frames her situation with a statement about Yahweh, followed immediately by a directive and a tentative outcome. The sentence itself moves from certainty to command to uncertainty, with the final clause lingering. Abram's response is presented without internal detail. The text emphasizes that he listened to the voice of Sarai, drawing attention to the spoken word as the driving force, before the narrative shows Sarai herself taking and giving Hagar. Key actions are compressed. The union and conception are stated briefly, but the text expands when relational tension appears. The wording begins to repeat around perception. Hagar saw that she had conceived, and Sarai is described as being despised in her eyes. This language appears first as a narrator statement, then is repeated almost identically in Sarai's own speech, shifting from description to accusation. The structure places Sarai's initial action and later accusation in close proximity. Her proposal and execution come first, followed by her complaint and appeal for judgment. Abram's reply redirects control. "Your servant is in your hand. Do her as is good in your eyes." The phrase eyes echoes the earlier description, linking perception and authority. The text then moves directly to action. Sarai deals harshly with Hagar, without evaluating the alignment between what is good and what is done. A structural shift occurs as Hagar flees. The setting moves from household to wilderness, and the narrative introduces Yahweh's angel. The encounter is structured through dialogue, beginning with a two-part question. Hagar answers only the first part, leaving the second unanswered, keeping the focus on where she's come from rather than where she's going. The angel's speech unfolds in a series of repeated introductions. Yahweh's angel said, moving through instruction, promise, naming, and description. Naming becomes prominent. The child is named with explanation, and Hagar names both God and the place. The passage closes by returning to concise narration, including the birth, the naming by Abram, and a specific age marker. What stands out right away is how Sarai frames everything in a single sentence. She states, Yahweh has restrained me from bearing, and that sounds settled, like a completed reality. But then without any pause, she moves straight into, please go into my servant, and ends with, perhaps I will be built up from her. That ending perhaps sticks. It doesn't resolve anything. It actually leaves the whole sentence feeling uncertain, even though it began with something that sounded certain. And the command sitting in the middle, it doesn't feel like it stabilizes that uncertainty. It feels like it exposes it. Like the action is an attempt to deal with something that still isn't settled. Then Abram's response is almost empty. There's no recorded thought process, no hesitation. It just said, he listened to the voice of Sarai. That wording stands out. It could have just said he did what she said, but instead it highlights her voice. It makes her words the thing that drives what happens next. When you follow the sequence, her role is consistent. She speaks, Abram listens, and then she takes Hagar and gives her to Abram. It's not just that she suggests something, she carries it through. Then the text compresses everything until the moment Hagar conceives, and that's where it slows down again. The language shifts to seeing. Hagar sees that she has conceived, and then almost immediately Sarai says she is despised in Hagar's eyes. The narrator states it once, and then Sarai repeats it. The same wording shows up twice, but it feels different the second time. The first is just a description. The second is charged. It's personal. It's a complaint. It's an accusation. And there's something about that repetition that both confirms the shift and intensifies how it's experienced. Then Sarai turns and blames Abram. Even though she initiated everything, the structure places her accusations right after the outcome. It happens fast. Proposal, action, conception, then blame. Abram's response is to hand control back to her. Your servant is in your hand. Do what is good in your eyes. That phrase, in your eyes, connects back to the earlier, despised in her eyes. There's this movement. Hagar sees her own conception. Sarai becomes despised in Hagar's eyes. And then Abram tells Sarai to act according to her own eyes. It feels like a reversal. The one who was diminished in someone else's eyes is now given authority to act based on her own. But then what follows is just stated. Sarai deals harshly with her, and Hagar flees. There's no comment on whether that was good in her eyes. The text doesn't evaluate it. It just moves on. Then everything shifts. The setting changes. Hagar is in the wilderness, and the angel finds her. The angel asks two questions. Where you came from, and where are you going? But Hagar only answers the first. I am fleeing from the face of my mistress. She names where she's coming from, but says nothing about where she's going. The second question just hangs there, unanswered. It keeps everything focused on her present situation, what she's escaping, without any clear direction forward. And then the angel begins to speak. There's a shift from Hagar's short, limited response to this extended speech. Commands, promises, and naming. It moves from her lack of direction into something that introduces a future, but it comes entirely from outside of her. And then Hagar responds in a way that stands out. She names God. She names the place. And she uses that same language of seeing again. You are a God who sees. Have I even stayed alive after seeing him? The language of sight that showed up earlier in conflict is still there, but now it's in a completely different setting. And the passage ends simply with the birth, the naming, and Abram's age. That brings this passage to a close. And this is Seeking the Word.